Spectacle. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigerian. I am Daniel Atai. Spectacle on Television Nigerian.
Minister of Transport Amaechi insists on Chinese loan, says loan is $1.6 billion and not $33 billion. And another story says Northwest banditry. Governor Masari of Katsina State exonerates President Muhammadu Buhari, says he has supplied all logistics to tackle crimes. Meanwhile, Bayelsa Governor Doe Duri heads to appeal court to address nullification of his election. And on the West African scene, Mali President Boubacar Keïta resigns from office. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigerian. I am Daniel Atai. We take a short break, and when we return, we go straight to the issues as a trend. Please stay tuned.
The issue here we have to begin to look at is that at the time of independence, I don't know if there was a trajectory to where we are going to.
But how could it be that credible, free and fair under manual conduct of election?
That is where our problem lies, and that is why people are now saying that, advising that we should move, that the world has gone into digital. We should move from the manual to the digital.
We cannot keep doing same thing and expecting a different result.
The only way you create jobs from your ministry is that you have to encourage local content.
If you look at the profile of Salimama, there is a caveat in this leave given to him. He should seek medical help if he's fine.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. Welcome back. With me in the studio to discuss all these stories is Imam Shafiu Abdul Karim Majemo. Imam Shafiu is a PhD research fellow at the Lagos State University School of Communication. He is also a public issue analyst. Mr. Shafiu, you are welcome to Television Nigeria.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's really an honor to be here.
All right, welcome. And without wasting time, we go to the story, the first story about the Minister of Transport, Amaechi, saying that the expected loan from China is $1.6 billion and not $33 billion. And of course, you know the drama that is being outplayed at the National Assembly, at the House of Representatives, questioning the issue of ceding some part of Nigerian sovereignty. That is a clause in that word agreement to China. Please enjoy the story.
Katsina State Governor Aminu Masari on Sunday said President Muhammadu Buhari isn't to blame for banditry in his home state and the Northwest. According to Masari, the president has done everything possible to ensure security in the region, adding that the military is yet to translate those efforts into reality. Masari was speaking at the presentation of a 10 million naira economic empowerment check to 1,000 women and 7 million naira scholarship support check to 701 students in Rimi local government area of the state, donated by philanthropist Salisu Maman Kadandani. The governor said further that the bandits are now living with the people. To identify a bandit in rural communities is not a difficult task because you know his business, his farmland capacity, and his Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amaechi yesterday declared that the federal government only obtained $1.6 billion contract loan from China as against $33 billion claimed by the House of Representatives. The minister said his ministry only obtained $1.6 billion contract for Lagos-Ibadan rail project. Amaechi, while appearing before the House Committee on Treasury's Protocols and Agreements at the resumed hearing on loan agreements between Nigeria and China on Monday, described the probe as political, saying the Lagos-Ibadan rail project was currently under threat as a result of the ongoing probe by the House. A mild drama, however, ensued when the minister vehemently disagreed with the chairman of the committee, Honorable Osai Nukalas, and the heated argument forced the committee to suspend proceedings for about 30 minutes after Speaker Femi Bajabimila waded in to restore orderliness. Osai had at the start of the hearing expressed displeasure with the Ministry of Transport for allegedly obtaining over $33 billion loans from China for the construction rail project without any clear-cut financing arrangements. Osai claimed that most of the commercial contract agreements lacked local content clauses, adding it was unfortunate that the deals were sealed by non-designated authority officials. But in a swift reaction, Amaechi insisted that there was no iota of truth that his ministry obtained $33 billion for the construction of rail projects in the country. The minister, who had a hot exchange of words with Osai, disclosed that his ministry has so far obtained a loan of $1.6 billion for the construction of Lagos-Ibadan railway project. The minister, however, warned that the activities of the lawmakers would hinder the acquisition of the loans to finance the South-South rail project, adding that the only loan secured by the present government was the $1.6 billion Lagos-Ibadan rail.
Welcome back. I want to apologize for that mix up in the first story. Mr. Sheffield, of course, you've been following the story at the House of Representatives where the chairman committee on this transportation issue has been on the neck of the Minister of Transportation, especially as he insists that he wants to take the loan. The loan has to be approved for him to continue the rail works, Ibadan, Lagos Rail, Kano, Kaduna, and so on. But the drama that is playing now is that the loan was initially set to be $33 billion, and the clause within the agreement says some part of Nigerian sovereignty, apart from the army and diplomatic ties, would be sealed to China if the loan is not paid in 30 years. And Amaechi said the investigation has to stop, that Nigeria will not cede any part of what? Its sovereignty to China, even if the loan is not paid. But however, we are going to pay the loan. And he also indicted, or a kind of allegedly said, that the chairman committee on this investigation is asking for contract from the very same Chinese loan meant for the railway construction. Now, in this case, if the contract, Amaechi is saying that because he refused to award him the contract per se, therefore they are halting the approval at the House of Rep. Now, is it the function of the House of Rep to a kind of collect contract from the executive arm of government, or they will never approve anything that has to bring development to the country? What would be your take on this?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we are all aware of this and this wrangling going on within the executive and the legislative arms of government.
Of course.
In an ideal democratic system, there should be a sort of understanding between these two arms of government. As it's affect the construction of the rail line, and which is going to actually boost the Nigerian economy beyond reasonable doubt. And also looking at the issue surrounding the loan that is about to be taken from China.
The clause.
The clause. Well, to me, I felt that there is no government that would cede or mortgage its own sovereignty to any other government or a company or a multinational, a construction company, just because you come in to construct a rail line.
Okay.
It's in an ideal situation. This is like a partnership.
All right.
And the whole process should reflect the terms and agreements that are to be followed. A process of carrying out this construction or this partnership. But what we are hearing now is that, okay, you giving this out at this amount, and if you're unable to pay back, one of a part of your country will be ceded to us.
Especially the economy.
Even in international contract agreements, such is not obtainable.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? What is obtainable is that you're going to pay from certain period of time. This project itself is going to end or increase the gross domestic product of the country. Okay. It's going to boost the economy. People are not going to, take these trains free of charge. They're going to be
So you are seeing honesty on the part of the minister. That he wants the construction to be done of the railway.
Yeah. And it's for him to tell us in clear terms, to debunk this, that, and come to the public for that. And, when you're giving out a contract, I think there's what we call transparency. If due process and transparency had been done, no one will come behind, not even the House of Representatives and that committee telling us this is how it is. We should have known, and it will no longer be a story, a news to us, telling us this is the Nigerian public can tell you this is what we know about this contract. Okay. So the minister is telling him or the Nigerians that, look, there's nothing like ceding any part of this country to China. Either we are unable to pay or not. All we need as public is that make this information public to us, the process and every stage of this contract. So we all know this, and then we'll know who is saying the truth.
Now, on the part of the National Assembly, with reference to the House of Representatives, oftentimes they tend not to approve executive proposals, especially contractual proposals, as it involves multinational conglomerate because of personal interest. What would you say? Is it to oversight first, or this is also part of their oversight when the re-contract has not even begun?
Yeah, I think in this case, someone is going beyond its boundary, and there has been a misplacement of priorities.
Okay.
We all know the function of the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, that you are not in position to collect a contract of this, even anyone. Yeah. What you're supposed to do is to get the details of this contract and monitor the implementation without any favor from anyone, because you have your means of livelihood. You have your salaries, you have allowances.
You're a lawmaker.
You're a lawmaker. Do you know what I'm saying? Is to legislate over certain things in Nigeria. But for you to sit back and say, I have to take this contract, and you have to award this contract to me, and if not, I'm going to ensure that that contract
does not work.
This is being done at the detriment of Nigerians. And that is why, if that is the truth, we can always say this, but we cannot say, we cannot substantiate all this. But if that is the truth, meaning that some people are not progressive, they are not ready to allow Nigerians to move forward. And maybe that is why the Minister of transportation is actually making this to the public that I have to go ahead with this. You have asked me to give you certain contracts and I've refused. So because of this, you are
trying to stop
the whole process
that will benefit the entire
nation. So I wouldn't allow that as a minister under the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That will be. I would equally do the same thing.
As a public issue analyst, would you also advise or say the Chinese government should issue statement regarding this ceding of part of sovereignty to the country? Or, a lender is your commander-in-chief. I think right now, though, some people say we don't have reasons to borrow money, but we have this offer on a platter of what? Gold. So, would you advise the Chinese government to issue a statement regarding this, or you advise the minister himself to allow the Chinese government to, define this clause that the National Assembly is seen as a threat to Nigerian sovereignty?
Well, like I said earlier, you see, it is going back to the Chinese to start telling us this. To me, there is a contractual document that spells out the process of this loan,
and they have found a claim clause.
So tell us if this clause really exists in the contract agreement. If yes, then there
or interpret further
maybe the interpretation. Sometimes we have interpretation issues. When you are not an expert in certain areas, your interpretation might be different from those who are experts. So bring in the expert, let them interpret this to Nigerians.
Right.
That is all we want.
Probably forensic experts, both from Chinese government and the Nigerian government counterparts, so that the clause that we are saying as misunderstanding or ceding part of our sovereignty to China would be clearly defined for Nigerians to know, and for us to also know whether the House of Representatives is right or wrong. Well, we move straight to the second story, which is about banditry. Of course, banditry in a northwestern region of the country, where, especially in Katsina State, where Governor Masari of Katsina State exonerates President Muhammadu Buhari, having provided all logistics and wherewithal for them to fight crimes. And I think here you are seeing a governor who is also taking responsibility within his jurisdiction. Please, let's have that story.
Katsina State Governor Aminu Masari on Sunday said President Muhammadu Buhari isn't to blame for banditry in his home state and the Northwest. According to Masari, the president has done everything possible to ensure security in the region, adding that the military is yet to translate those efforts into reality. Masari was speaking at the presentation of a 10 million naira economic empowerment check to 1,000 women and 7 million naira scholarship support check to 701 students in Rimi local government area of the state, donated by philanthropist Salisu Maman Kadandani. The governor said further that the bandits are now living with the people. To identify a bandit in rural communities is not a difficult task because you know his business, his farmland capacity, and his livestock, he said. He also mentioned, if one day he buys a new motorcycle at over 200,000 naira, then you must know that he is selling people's lives. The Metropolitan Capital Catholic Archbishop of Abuja Diocese, Most Reverend Ignatius Kaigama, has called on the federal and Kaduna state governments to find a solution to the killing in the state, adding that dialogue can resolve problems better than guns, bombs, and arrows. Kaigama spoke at the priestly coordination of the 7 Reverend Fathers held at Our Lady Queen of Nigeria Pro Cathedral, Abuja. Dialogue can resolve problems better than guns, bombs, and arrows. We call on the government and all levels to provide immediate and lasting solution to the security problems. President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Reverend Dr. Supo Ayokunle, yesterday joined other Christian faithful in prayers and protest against the unwarranted killings and destruction of property in southern Kaduna.
Spectacle on television Nigerian.
Welcome back. There we have a governor taking responsibility within his jurisdiction as utilizing what we call a state security vote. Have you heard about state security vote?
Yeah, of course. We all know about state security votes.
Okay. You know, the president is sitting at the central and then delegating authorities. The army, the security operatives are working. All he just needs to do is to order, give directives, and also provide logistics in terms of funding and what have you. Masari yesterday said the president is not to be blamed for the banditry, however, that he has provided everything for them. Not because he is from the president's state, and I would want you to do justice in comparison to other governors who actually shy away from their responsibilities despite the security vote and blame always the central.
Well, like we all know, constitutionally, the president is the #1 chief security
commander-in-chief.
And when he was sworn in, he was handed over the flag as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and so on. So the lives and properties of the people actually is bestowed upon him, on his shoulder, rest on his shoulder, the protection. So now a governor saying that the president has performed his constitutional role by providing all necessary logistics and support for them to fight banditry in that state. Now, whose honors to actually douse tension in that state? And based on what he said, meaning that he has to do more to ensure that peace is restored in that state. And it is now for him to ensure that those opportunities that have been given to him in terms of funding, sending the military down there, he should make judicious use of this. So if there are other problems that he's looking at, then definitely let him look inward. The traditional institutions are there. The
and like I said, they could recognize bandits within their society, within their region. Like if you don't have means of income and your livelihood seems to be improving or living larger than your income, you could be a suspect and the investigation could be done on you. That is community policing to me and community investigation to me. However, the cross of this story is the fact that you said that the commander-in-chief is the president and he is in charge of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so this charge or this exoneration does not extend to the military perhaps. And how would you also adjudge the fight by the military at the north, eastern part of the country?
Well, the military, as we are made to know, that they are doing their best.
Of course.
All the time say they are doing their best. But I've personally felt the best is not enough.
How is it going to be enough?
Yeah,
Will it ever
because
be enough?
it's not enough when we have continued killings in those regions. And your presence, meaning that your presence is not felt.
Okay.
And you are not doing the needful in that regard. Because the whole essence of deploying the military to that zone is for you to douse tension and bring those culprits into books. But if you're unable to do that, to me, I will not say you are not making effort, but those efforts are not enough. You need to do more.
Right.
And I think that is the same statement the president is also...
the governor.
And the governor is also
making
in this regard.
All right. Anyway, we, however, charge our security operatives in the northeastern part of the country. We know they are doing great. The Army, they are doing great. The Air Force, the armed forces generally, they are performing well within that axis, fighting insurgency and criminality such as banditry. However, like they said, funding is a challenge. Technology is a challenge, but we are happy that today we are seeing how the army is rolling out tanks, armored deacons, and so on, made in Nigeria here. So not depending much on foreign aids to actually fight the banditry and insurgency. We wish them well, and we pray that the government continue to do their best, just the way Governor Masari has exonerated the FG of everything that they have provided logistics for them to do their best. So kudos to the Nigerian Armed Forces, and we pray that the banditry be curtailed in the northeastern part of the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheffield. And we go to the story making round in Bayelsa State, where Governor Dore Diri heads to appeal court to challenge the nullification of his election. Please enjoy that story.
Governor Diri Duri of Bayelsa State to appeal tribunal judgment that nullified his election. Bayelsa State Governor Senator Duri yesterday expressed optimism about obtaining on appeal the judgment of the State Election Petitions Tribunal, which earlier in the day nullified the election that brought him to office. Duri, who was reacting to the tribunal's nullification of the November 16, 2019 governorship election, said he had already instructed his lawyers to appeal the judgment at the Court of Appeal. In a split decision, the tribunal ruled that the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) erred when it disqualified a candidate of the Advanced National Democratic Party (ANDP) from contesting the election for allegedly having an underage candidate as his running mate. But INEC yesterday insisted that the governorship candidate of the ANDP, Mr. Lucky King George, was not properly nominated to run for the election. King George had asked the tribunal to cancel the election because he was excluded from it. INEC had explained that it excluded ANDP from the elections because Mr. David Essin Kumar, the party's initial deputy governorship candidate, was 34 years old and did not meet the age requirement of 35 years as stipulated by the Constitution to contest the election. But following INEC's observation on the ineligibility of Essin Kumar on account of his age, ANDP had said he was duly substituted within the allowed time frame. The party therefore prayed the tribunal to order for a fresh governorship poll in the state. On Saturday, a three-man panel of the tribunal had dismissed 3 petitions challenging Diri's election on the grounds of incompetence and lacking merit. The tribunal, in a unanimous decision, dismissed the first petition that was filed by the Alliance for Democracy and its candidate, Mr. Owe Waniwe, for want of merit. The tribunal held that the petitioners failed to lead credible evidence to prove that the Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Lawrence Erujakbo, tendered forged certificate to the INEC. In the lead judgment read by Justice S.M. Owoduni, the tribunal held that the petitioners failed to also establish the allegation that Erujakbo falsified his age, describing the case as a necessary waste of time of the court. The tribunal upheld the preliminary objections that Diri, Erujakbo, and the People's Democratic Party (PDP) filed to challenge the competence of the petition. The AD and its candidate had in their petition alleged that Erujakbo altered the name on the National Youth Service Corps NYSC certificate he presented to INEC for the governorship election. But while delivering yesterday's judgment on ANDP's petition, the panel held that the election was unlawful due to the exclusion of ANDP and its candidate. Justice Unisa Musa, who read the lead judgment, ordered INEC to conduct a fresh election in Bayelsa within 90 days. Diri, candidate of the PDP, was sworn in as governor after the Supreme Court sacked the All Progressives Congress APC candidate, Mr. David Leon, who was declared winner of the election on the eve of his inauguration. The Apex Court based its ruling on the premise that Senator Biobarukuma Degi Erimienyo, who was Leon's running mate, presented forged certificates to INEC. But in a swift reaction to the tribunal judgment, Duri said he had instructed his lawyers to appeal it. Duri, who spoke shortly after the tribunal ruled that INEC wrongly excluded the ANDP governorship candidate from the November 16, 2019 election, said he was confident that he would triumph in the end. The governor, in a statement by his acting chief press secretary, Mr. Daniel Alabra, said, "We trust in the judiciary and we are appealing the judgment. With God on our side, we will get justice. This is a court of first instance, and I have instructed our lawyers to file an appeal. We have a right to appeal even up to the Supreme Court." The governor urged PDP members and his supporters not to panic and to continue to remain calm and law-abiding. Also, the Bayelsa State Chairman of the PDP, Chief Solomon Agwana, told This Day that the party was waiting for a copy of the dissenting judgment before reacting. The situation in Yenogwa, the state capital, remained calm since the judgment was delivered. Duri's predecessor, Honorable Siriake Dixon, said in a statement by his media aide, Mr. Fidelis Soriwe, that Duri remains governor until a final decision on the issue is reached at the Supreme Court. He describes the ruling as a temporary setback which does not in law affect the status quo until appeal processes are exhausted. The former governor advised the people of Bayelsa not to be perturbed by the tribunal's verdict, stressing that the PDP and the government would appeal the judgment. Dixon urged them to go about their lawful duties without any disturbance. He said, "I urge Bayelsans to remain calm. They shouldn't misinterpret what took place at the tribunal today, Monday. The judgment is a temporary setback which does not have any effect on the status quo until all processes of appeal are exhausted." There is no vacancy in the Bayelsa government house. Diri remains governor until the Supreme Court decides.
Spectacle on Television Nigerian.
Well, welcome back. As one of the national issues making rounds, and we wish that you have a dose from us here from Television Nigerian. And Sheffield is still in the studio. And of course, Mr. Sheffield, you see, they described it as a temporary setback, according to Sariake Dixon, his predecessor. And we also have 90 days, which is remaining like 86 days now for a rerun election, according to the tribunal judgment. He said, Sirake said that the governor, Doye Diri, still remain governor on the ground of appeal. Now, do you see judicial nitty-gritty or a kind of judicial anomalies in this whole drama that is out playing?
Well, you know, Nigerian system, that is what we used to. When a tribunal had given a judgment, what is expected is that the Speaker of the House of Assembly takes charge of the state, pending the time a new election is conducted and a new governor is ushered in.
Okay, the Speaker ought to have.
Yes, step is number 3, man. Because the governor and the deputy are concerned.
Yes, and nullified. The election has been nullified.
You get what I'm saying? But in Nigerian system, you quickly go to an appeal. So that
and
appeal,
you remain to use state
just
fund.
for you to fight, to win back, to get yourself back into the office. So this is not good enough in an ideal situation. But because our constitution permits this, so they tend to actually get that as opportunity to remain in the office and also conduct an election.
Does it seem right?
Well, it's not like we said.
A court of the tribunal is a court of a tribunal of competent jurisdiction on electoral matters, and then they issued their verdict nullifying election, and the governor say, "I still remain the governor," because I'm heading to appeal.
Even as much that the governor also
do you think that we need more judicial interpretation on this or constitutional interpretation on this?
With or without any interpretation, do you get what I'm saying? We also know that the governor has the right to appeal this. But at the same time,
not while sitting.
Because already that election that brought you in as a governor is null and void.
It's null and void right now.
Do you get what I'm saying? So you need to step back while you have your appeal going on, and you start pursuing your appeal. It's just like someone who has been alleged. Do you get what I'm saying? This is not even an allegation any longer. So you have to step out of that office to allow for proper investigation.
All right.
But in this case, the governor ought to have stepped aside, pursue his appeal,
but no,
and allow the constitution to take its toll.
Now, assuming on the clause that the ANDP, the Advanced National Democratic Party, was not included in that election, because INEC said that the deputy governor candidate of that party was not up to 35 years old. I want you to set this agenda. How old were the military personnel that ruled this country before, as commander-in-chief, head of state, and so on, before they assumed that position? Is this clause in the constitution? Though you are not a constitutional lawyer, but as a public issue analyst and a PhD research personality, I know that you have vast knowledge of what I am asking you. Now, 35 years, even at 34, you are not qualified constitutionally to be governor or deputy governor in this country. What happens to the has not you young to run whatever that Mr. President signed?
Well, I think if you're talking about military, it's a different ball game entirely.
Okay.
Once you have the capacity to do a coup,
like what is happening in Mali, we are coming into that.
Even if you are just 18 years old, so you can
25 years old,
you can be a president.
Coup,
yes. But in a democratic setting, I think the INEC, they have their guidelines for all this.
And so, what would you say about this?
Well, to me, it is not an ideal situation in a country whereby you are trying to promote the youth. You want youthful leadership. So you can't be saying that someone who is not up to 35 years cannot be a leader. Even internationally, we can see leaders emerging. Yes. And you see people of maybe 35, 30, 36 becoming leader.
Even 24.
So becoming leaders.
You can win an election at the age of 24.
So once you have that support and homegrown support.
Now, apart from homegrown support, once you are eligible voter, eligible voter. You know, if you could vote, you should be able to be
also run for office.
You understand? So, from 18 years, the Nigerian Constitution says you are an eligible voter. So, why being denied of his own civic responsibility to be voted for?
At the same time, we had, before the 2019 or 2015, not too young to run bill.
Yes.
The government assented.
Yes.
The government assent into. So I think that should also be part of the consideration of INEC in actually allowing people to run for position, especially at the position of a governor, as a governor or a deputy governor. I think this should be looked into by INEC.
All right. Apart from the case of the ANDP, do you see the APC? You know, APC, David Lyon won that election. And he was, nullified too. He was dethroned on the ground of forgery from his deputy governor's candidate. Baraka Brahma. I don't know how to pronounce that long name. Now, in this case, do you see the APC coming back within these 90 days to have a rerun with PDP and the rest of the parties involved?
That is the opportunity they have. It's an opportunity for them to come back, and run for that election.
Are you sure?
Yes, because the entire election
has been nullified. So APC is
they can come in
directly qualified.
Present another deputy governor to run with the candidate they had earlier that actually won the election. And to me, this could be a very a good opportunity for them to bounce back.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see how that drama would outplay. And the power of incumbency. Sitting governor going to appeal. He has appealed. He has asked his lawyers to appeal, and he's still sitting as the governor. You know, he has the financial muscle to muzzle anything. So, in the Nigerian setting,
yeah, like you said, the incumbent governor,
yes,
Siriaki Dixon,
yes,
has the wherewithal to bring him back. You know,
no, the predecessor is Siriaki Dixon.
Sorry, predecessor.
The incumbent is Jerry.
The predecessor used all the paraphernalia of office to ensure that he wins that election.
Okay.
But unfortunately,
was it like the judiciary for sale?
But unfortunately, the people decided that they want
David Leon.
Because actually that was by the declaration of INEC, he won the election. So many people voted him for that election. So things may take another dimension. So it may not necessarily be that the power of incumbency will have influence on this election.
What about financial muscle?
I don't think it will have. The people will decide.
The people will decide.
Yeah.
Well, in Bayelsa State, we will wait, first of all, for the Court of Appeal to give their judgment whether David Leon and the APC could still contest, participate in the election since the governorship election has been nullified or not. We'll wait for that interpretation by the judiciary, especially with respect to the appeal court where Duri Doye has filed his appeal. We'll take the next story, which has to do with one of our West African states, talking about Mali, where the president, Babakar Keita, resigned. We don't know whether that resignation was a coercion or he resigned peacefully, honorably, within his own will. Please enjoy that story before we begin the analysis. And immediately after that analysis, the lines will be open for just 5 minutes for you to make your contribution if you wish to. Please. Mali president resigns after military coup. You can get this story from the Nigerian news. Mali's President Ibrahim Babakar Keita announced his resignation on live television in the early hours of Wednesday morning following a military coup. I have decided to leave my post, he said, clad in a traditional clothing and a medical mask to protect against the coronavirus. The president and prime minister Babao Sisi were arrested by the military after a mutiny on Tuesday, following months of street protests in the volatile West African state, which is also battling an Islamic insurgency. The president and his prime minister have been arrested. They are being taken to Kati military camp. Army officer Sidi Gakao told DPA earlier on Tuesday. The United Nations, European Union, African Union Commission, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, have condemned the military's actions. The UN has called for the immediate release of the president, while the EU said it condemns the coup attempt underway in Mali and rejects any anti-constitutional change. This can in no way be a response to the deep socio-political crisis that has hit Mali for several months, the EU said in a statement. Later, ECOWAS said that it decided to close its member states and border with Mali, suspend the country from its decision-making bodies with immediate effect, and temporarily interrupt financial flows between its other 14 members and Bamako. Mali has been struggling to maintain stability since tens of thousands of opposition supporters accused Keita of gross intimidation and vote buying during a parliamentary election in April, which gave his administration a firm majority. Soldiers started to mutiny early Tuesday in the garrison town of Kati, 15 kilometers northwest of Bamako. Gunfire was heard in the capital. A photographer told DPA there had been several thousand protesters on the street, with people firing into the air in celebration. Before its leaders were detained, the government had released a statement calling for calm, admitting that soldiers might have legitimate frustrations and saying they were prepared to engage in a dialogue. The US, Australian, and Swedish embassies in Mali warned of possible unrest in the volatile West African country, urging their citizens to stay at home. France, a former colonial power in Mali, condemned the mutiny. France has learned with concern of the mutiny that has started today in Kati, Mali. It condemns this serious event in the strongest terms, the foreign ministry said in a statement. The coup came after several weeks of political tensions and repeated anti-government protests during which talks between the government and the opposition, which is led by popular cleric Mahmoud Dicko, a former ally of Keita, failed. A coup in Mali in 2012 was carried out by soldiers from the same barracks. Political instability in Mali is seen as a dangerous development for the entire Sahel region, which already faces ongoing threats from numerous terrorist and separatist groups.
Spectacle on television Nigerian.
Coup d'etat. It is very long that I heard about coup d'etat. Could we say that the military is gradually coming back to power, or indirectly coming back to power with what is happening in Mali?
Well, for every country, there are different contexts and different ideology and settings as far as democracy is concerned. But what just happened in Mali is being condemned by the entire global community, and to that pressure would return that country.
So the military has to return the sanity of the country
back. Well, for whatever reason, you say the military has no right, constitutional right.
Thank you.
To come into power for whatever reason in any democratic setting. Okay, so they don't have any reason for this. Even if you have good intention for the country, you don't use harm to come in. If the president is not doing well, maybe he has rigged an election or whatever, and he has rigged himself into power, there are procedures, judicial procedures. We're talking in Nigeria, we're talking about someone going to institution that would help to normalize the situation in that country. So which, with patience and perseverance, the military were there to protect that democratic system. Rather than taking over power, they can as well go out and also maintain peace and order if given the control or maybe the permission by the president. For whatever reason, even though the government had rigged himself back to power, he has that constitutional power. So all grievances should be channeled through the law court.
But you see, you are seeing a national protest. If you watched it,
I know,
a national haywire everywhere. People were protesting, agitating for his resignation. Of course, that kind of protest could cause national chaos. Perhaps could that be the reason the military intervened?
Like I said, the military
has no justification.
And you can see that despite the fact that people around the world also condemn the sitting president based on the way he came back to power.
Vote buying and so on. I think this is his third term.
Do you know what I'm saying? So at the same time, the military has no right to intervene in this situation or in this matter the way they have done. But rather, they should have helped the institution, the democratic institution, to fight this itself.
And when you're talking about democratic institution, especially the one that ought to be responsible of sanitizing such situation, is the judiciary, isn't it?
Exactly.
Or the National Assembly of the country. But was it not Mali? Yes? No, it was Niger that nullified their National Assembly, the Senate and their House of Reps. Okay, now, in Mali today, is part of West African state, one member nation of the ECOWAS. Do you think that the situation of their judicial system is more or less too porous to stand for the people in times like these, and hence the military has to come in?
Well, like I said, the military has no any justification for
no
this.
justification.
But at the same time,
whether the judiciary is doing their work
or not.
No.
But at the same time, we all know that the judiciary system in that country is weak.
Is weak.
Very, very weak and porous. And that is why we are having this situation. But my advice is that the military should return the country back to a democratic system as soon as possible.
How soon?
Well, as soon as soon as they can. And as possible as they can strive.
But the military will say they cannot if they do not see enabling environment.
No, we have seen
nations where...
We have seen situations like this when the military will come in and they bring in an interim government to return the country back to democratic administration. That is all. So that is what they should do.
You know, normally when you say immediate effect in military language, it could take a transition of 1 year. You of course you say interim government for 1 year, then they begin to plan the process according to the calendar of politics.
The international community will also not rest on their hours, they will pile the pressure.
And when you talk about this international community trying to come in, the organs of the United Nations of organization, most times the military also have them as allies.
Well, for whatever reason, if they have them as allies, but what I know is that the international community, these are people, these are countries with integrity. These are countries that, for a single country cannot exist alone.
First world,
so
NATO
you cannot exist as a country alone.
Nations, okay.
You need other, like the ECOWAS.
The ECOWAS already have placed
UN,
their ban,
the UN,
and the UN so can impose their ban,
there's no way you can operate in isolation as a sovereign state. It's not possible.
Thank you.
With this, I think the country will be returned back as soon as possible.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sheffield, Imam Sheffield. You are too versatile to just be practicing whatever, but that is your calling.
Yeah, no problem.
So thanks for coming to Television Nigerian.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So Mali, military situation in Mali should do well and quickly as soon as possible. We don't know how soon and we don't know how possible to return Mali to democratic system again. Thanks for watching, and this is where we'll stop. Please, if you want to get this news, check on our online news tabloid, the Nigerian News. The Nigerian News is an online news that have all this news for your listening, reading pleasure. Daniel Atai is my name. See you tomorrow.
Spectacle. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigerian. I am Daniel Atai. Spectacle on Television Nigerian.